We're watching every Adam Sandler film to see if they still hold up. This week, we watched Reign Over Me.
Reign Over Me is the most slept on Adam Sandler film to date, where we learn that he's had the chops to act this whole time. It has the emotional depth of Click, if Click was a post 9/11 tragedy with an extreme depiction of PTSD. We watch as he discovers a wholesome friendship with Don Cheadle's character in the heart of New York. It's beautiful, gut-wrenching, and even the critics kind of agree it's a bloody good watch.
We play a game of Adam Sandler themed bingo around here. Up on screen are our bingo cards, but I will warn you, this movie is not a movie to be playing bingo with.
No, this is
beautiful.
the least bingo movie we've watched so far. I feel bad for having squares and almost scoring bingo.
We're gonna hash over our points and we're gonna get into the review a lot faster than normal.
My bingo squares were Sandler Sings.
Feynman, that's two.
An outdated word.
Name the one national U.S. monument that's movable.
Suck my ass, retard.
And even though I had those, they weren't in the traditional fashion that we generally explore these ones.
I also had Sandler Sings and I had Fight Scene, which again are major plot points, so let's get into the review. The movie starts when we're introduced to Don Cheadle's character, and he, in a distance, sees his old friend Charlie Feynman, played by Adam Sandler.
Hey, Charlie! Charlie Feynman!
We find out Charlie's not doing so good, but as an audience, we don't quite know why.
As his ex-college roommate, he doesn't even recognize him at first glance. And it's like, what is going on here with this man?
Yeah.
So we know each other?
Sandler portrays this really flighty, scared, mousy man that's always wearing headphones and never quite seems to be in the conversation.
The longest hair I've ever seen him have in a film so far.
So Don Cheadle's dinner table, we finally get introduced to the plight of Charlie Feynman.
Whose family was on the plane? Is that Charlie Feynman?
So we start getting this picture painted of him from afar of what people have heard, of people coming by his door, and but you get the sense that no one's actually really had a genuine conversation with him.
Yeah.
It's all judgments from the outside.
What? We gotta go.
And Don Cheadle's character wants to get into the inside. So we finally get introduced to Charlie Feynman's home when they start building trust. And we see that the home there's not much going on at all. It seems like Charlie sleeps in a closet by himself. There's a whole rooms that are packed up, and Charlie spends most of his days, we see, just gaming.
What is this?
Shadows of the Colossus.
And it's an interesting dynamic between Don Cheadle and Adam Sandler, because
Yeah.
you can see Don on paper, the perfect life, great
Absolutely.
job, great family, but on the inside he's really struggling to reckon with his job and his family, and rather than facing it and fixing it, he kind of runs off to his old high school buddy, or college buddy rather, and just like hangs out with him for the most part.
And their issues, although very different, they're both coping with them in similar ways. They're both not communicating with the right people about what's really going on. And they both just want to live in the past. And so when you see them converse with each other, it's very broy, old school. They're talking about chicks, they're talking about tits, but you almost don't hate them for it as an audience member, because you're realizing that we all regress a little bit when we talk with our old high school friends, when all we have in common is high school or college with them. And so we see them both regress, but in this way that they both are yearning for them. The friendship is kind of beautiful and sweet between Don Cheadle and Adam Sandler. And we end up in a bar where Sandler's shredding on the drums. And it seems like his one outlet that's kind of healthy. But then immediately that whole scene gets soured as he has a moment of PTSD with Don Cheadle at the bar and is triggered and starts screaming.
Why are you here right now talking to me?
Relax, okay?
Why?
And it's really hard to watch because you can see that all Don wants to do is be his friend and hold his hand, but we get the impression that he's so damaged that it's nigh impossible to get through those walls, even just by trying to have a casual conversation at the bar. You start unraveling what the mystery to Charlie Feynman might be, because you don't know how he's getting his money. Maybe it's from the band. Mention of any family really sets him off. But then one of his quote-unquote business partners comes to Don Cheadle's door and offers him $1 million for having a little dispute.
He wants me to give you $1 million.
He has that kind of money?
That's none of your business.
Fixable dispute that you could have just talked about. And you begin to think, oh, no, he's getting paid out because his family died in 9/11.
Yeah, super, super sad. And also, the sad part about this moment as well is Charlie Feynman's character is trying to pay Don Cheadle $1 million because he didn't react well when Don Cheadle's father passed.
Charlie, my father just died.
Yeah, I know. I want to hang though.
Charlie Feynman was so unable to comprehend grief because he's not ready for that in his life. He just hashed over it.
Yeah, as soon as the tragedy happened in his life, it shut down. Completely shut down.
So as the plot progresses, we're introduced to Liv Tyler, who plays a therapist.
She becomes a very important piece in Charlie's growth later on, but also Don Cheadle's. Like, it starts by him just leaning on her looking for help.
It's not really fair for you to wait for me out here on the street.
No.
If you want to make an appointment, we can make an appointment and you come and see me.
So a lot of this story is the tumultuous relationship between Adam Sandler and Don Cheadle as they go over bumps and roller coasters, but we can see that they really care for each other despite Sandler trashing his dentist's office.
Yeah.
Charlie, get out of here!
There's a lot of rage moments in this film, and a lot of heart-wrenching moments for Don Cheadle's character as well, because you see this relationship that he's in, this marriage with kids, and him and his wife's relationship is so toxic because they're not communicating. And I was thinking to myself as I was watching it, how would I let my relationship get to this shit point? How could I ever let it get there? And I thought it'd be some mysterious answer, but realistically, it comes down to just not communicating. Whether it's about the small things or the big things. If you don't communicate about the small things in relationships, you're never going to communicate about the big things.
No.
And then you're going to be Don Cheadle in Reign Over Me.
That is sick, Janine.
Is it?
You get the sense that this film is about both of these dudes learning how to communicate through each other. Just different issues. Like, he's got to talk to his wife. Adam Sandler got to talk to a therapist and friends about what's happened to him.
Yeah.
But they're learning how to do it together.
So Don Cheadle finally helps Adam Sandler's character out by getting him to a therapist, and he keeps going back and back and back, and nothing seems to be happening until finally Sandler's character opens up.
They wake me up all the time. Saturday mornings, you know, singing Beatles songs to me in harmony, the four of them.
This scene made me cry, Joe.
Yeah, that is a really beautiful scene. Because you can see that, they're encouraging him to talk, but they're never forcing him.
Yeah.
So it really feels like it comes from within. And it just pours out this beautiful emotional waterfall, just like the ones in my eyes.
Oh, man. And you can see as well, like, for people that don't have PTSD, you can start to understand it more. Because you understand the weight of what he's gone through. That all he's doing all day, every day, is just holding this ceiling up above his head from collapsing in on him. And that's the truth of losing his wife and his daughters in 9/11. That is gonna fuck you up somehow. And it did for him in a way that he just needed to shut it all out and pretend it didn't exist. And where the plot takes a really interesting turn is Sandler's character tries to end his life by getting shot by a police officer. That doesn't work out. He ends up going to court for this.
It's an interesting turn, but also a really harrowing turn, because now he's like explaining his grief to a court of law who are trying to hospitalize him, where that is just not the way he's going to grieve.
Yeah.
And the parents of his partner are brought back in who are grieving differently and want him to go on this journey, but that is just not what Charlie needs.
No, it was hard to watch this court scene because this schmuck lawyer triggers a PTSD episode in Sandler's character, where we, funnily enough, get a bingo square of Sandler Sings in that moment. Thank God that lawyer gets dunked on by none other than
Donald Sutherland.
You ever pull crap like that in my court again, I will have hardened inmates using you as a dress-up doll. You hear me?
Your Honor, in my defense.
Quiet.
It instills some hope back in the film that there are actual human beings out there that are here to help Adam Sandler's character and want what's best for him, rather than just chucking him in and hospitalizing him for a year and just not allowing him to go on his healing journey that is gonna take so long.
And the beautiful part here is the parents finally see clearly, because Donald Sutherland's character gives them the opportunity.
I want you to think about what your little girl would have you do in this situation.
They decide, no, we're not going to hospitalize this poor man. And thank God they didn't, because then we get this beautiful scene where Sandler finally, after years, speaks to them.
But you got each other. And I'm the one who's got to see her and the girls all the time. I even see the dog. Look at a German Shepherd, I see our goddamn poodle.
That is the scene where I shed many tears. Just seeing them actually talk, and he just wants to see that he does care. He can't handle it. And,
No.
Oh, Mac.
And if you're a person with a partner or any loved one, watching the grief of someone lose it all,
Hold them tight.
I walked out of the bedroom after watching this movie and hugged my girlfriend so tight. I was distraught. But we get some hope from this movie. Sandler's character finally moves out of the old apartment that was obviously haunting him. He's getting constant therapy and he's starting to open up even more to Don Cheadle's character.
Yeah.
And we talk about this a lot in Sandler films, but shoehorned romance is something that we just can't stand because it happens so frequently.
Where I'm happy to let this one kind of slide. There was a
I
character
am.
we were introduced to earlier in the film who was being a bit of a pest to Don Cheadle's character.
Yeah.
But she is going through a grief journey of her own. So
Yeah.
she comes to the courtroom, she supports Adam Sandler's character, and then in the end she's up in his apartment and they're hanging out.
And that's it. There's no kissing, there's no
No.
love making. But she sees his pain and she fully understands it because she's going through it himself. And it reminded me, Joe, and I'd love to show you this.
Yeah.
It's this moment from a Jim Carrey piece where he talks about something that really relates to this film.
When your heart is in love, you're floating, weightless. But when you lose that love, you have to re-enter the atmosphere. And it can get pretty rough. You're just bouncing off one molecule and onto the next, ripping through them at such a pace that they just ignite and explode. Until you find another heart that's doing the same thing, has landed and cooled, and then you start to float again.
Wow.
And I feel like Adam Sandler's character finally found another heart that was cooled. And maybe it wasn't in a love interest, but I think it was definitely just a person that saw him and understood him.
And it's a great note to leave us on because similar to what I would say Funny People, another film we watched, you kind of trust that the characters are going to go on and work it out for themselves. Don Cheadle goes home to his wife and he tells her over the phone,
I don't know how I got to the place where I'm not letting you in, but you're right, I'm not, and that's wrong. I gotta open up to you. Because I don't want to be that guy, baby.
And they both got exactly what they needed when they needed it. Not too fast, not too slow, but we don't see the full resolve. As a lot of movies want to give you the perfect person. 10 years later, they'll skip ahead to maybe Adam Sandler. If it was by another director, would have a short haircut and he's back doing dental work again. But instead, no, we don't get that.
which I love. And clocking in at just over 2 hours, I think it was a great length to explore these themes and really resolve here where we're like, this movie lives on. Like the future of it just lives on in my brain, and I believe it's positive because of the journey that they went on here.
Happy to rate this bad boy if you are, Joe.
I am too, Mac. I enjoyed it a lot. It was a very somber piece. Got me very emotional. It's an easy 7 for me.
Okay.
Easy 7.
Easy 7.
It was not like any other of the Sandler films we've watched so far, but I'm glad we did.
I'm super glad. This movie has a lot of attachment for me. I don't quite know why, but I loved it. I loved it so much, and I couldn't critique it in any way because I thought the way it was shot, the score, the sound selection, the acting was beautiful. For those reasons, Joe, I gave it a 9.
A 9! Oh my god.
Thank you.
Well done.
Thank you. And thank you to Adam Sandler for bringing another beautiful film into this world, in a world full of other films like Sandy Wexler.
Which we're going to pick another one for you right now.
All right, I'm hoping for a comedy after that because I can't cry again.
In the
this
next
is your week,
episode of The Sandpit,
here you go, my friend.
we are watching Going Overboard, 1989, Adam Sandler's first ever movie. Let's go. Hey, make sure to tell someone you love them today.
Bye.
Bye.